my first take of my first mini lecture. I think I'm just going to do one take, y'all. So if I screw this up, I just flow with me. Okay, this is a lecture about this particular book, Pamela Douglas. Pamela Douglas is writing the TV drama series, and it's I'm going to help summarize this book and her ideas and her techniques in short, and then introduce to you the homework exercise, which is to create an episode breakdown of one episode of your TV show. So that's where we're headed, and first I'm going to tell you a little bit about her and the book. So Pamela Douglas teaches at the University of Southern California School of Cinematic Arts in their master's program, which is basically one of the most prestigious screenwriting and TV writing programs from which people sort of jump straight into the industry. So what I love about this book is it's both good sort of dramaturgical, theatrical information about writing exciting TV, and it's also practical and talks really realistically about the industry and the economy and the sort of capitalist foundations of television and streaming programming, which we just can't deny as we're learning about it. It's always been funded by ads. That's how it goes. One thing I love about her work is that she talks both about form and content, and she sees those as really you can't unentangle them. They are constantly entangled, the form and the content. So she writes a lot about structure and how TV is conventionally structured, and then also about how to think through what content is particularly meaningful right now. She has a quote on page 5 where she says, "Because TV frequently reflects complex and wrenching problems in contemporary society, such as racism, sexism, violence, spirituality, and sexual identity, the writers must confront these issues with honesty at the same time as they learn their craft." That's my advice for you as you're starting to work. Her advice that I'm giving you. So in terms of craft, she thinks about acts, scenes, and beats, and the way those kinds of structures all weave together. And what I love is that that's just straight up from theater. That's kind of straight up from how the kind of conventional understandings of theatrical structures have been functioning for a really, really long time. So there's nothing brand new here from our prior work on theater or film. It's just sort of how do we adapt these concepts of beats, scenes, and acts into the kind of format of TV. She says it looks easy from the outside, that the craft of this work can become invisible, but that in fact it's pretty hard. One thing I like about the book is I have a lot of interviews with other big figures in TV writing. So there's this guy named John Wells, who's famous for writing shows. Well, he's not famous, but shows are. He's written for things like ER and West Wing. She asks Mr. Wells what he wishes he knew when he started writing for TV, and he said he wished he knew that screenwriting takes a long time. It's like learning how to play a musical instrument. It requires a lot of study, a lot of focus, a lot of time. So that's something we're going to be doing in this section of our course. Both Wells and Douglas agree that what they love about TV writing is the way that you can get really deep into characters. While a play or a film might show one or two major turning points in a character's life, in TV you can have literally countless turns in their experiences. In another interview in this book with a guy named David Isaac, a guy who has been writing in TV for literally 6 decades, he wrote from MASH to Mad Men. He says that no matter what the genre, whether it's drama or comedy or even like reality TV, the character is the driver in streaming and in series TV. So I like that metaphor that character is the driver. So think about character as sitting in the driver's seat, accelerating, changing lanes, etc. Like Gus's water. Remember when we used to do things like go out to restaurants for food? Okay, so another thing that's very specific about TV is the relationship between character and dialogue. So dialogue is super important in writing for TV. Now, the conventions of TV are such that it has a lot of influence from radio. So when we think about conventions of dialogue in TV, remember that it's a little bit more of an oral medium than film. When we were in our film unit, we talked about how we had to switch from the kind of poetic realm of writing for theater to the kind of visually poetic realm of writing for film. Now moving into TV, there's a third and even sort of different relationship with dialogue, with speaking. Part of that comes, like I said, from radio. The other part of it comes from the fact, and she mentions this in the book, that especially in the beginning with TV, but still now, TV is something that people watch while they are doing other things. You often multitask while you're watching a show. So dialogue sometimes has to that means that dialogue is really important. So there's some long histories and conventions of TV dialogue that are actually kind of terrible. TV doesn't age well. It often feels cheesy, expository, or just straight up offensive, racist, sexist, homophobic. This is some of what we inherit. We inherit this medium of trying to write for TV. And so pushing against that is all of our work. Pushing against some of the sort of oppressive or just archaic histories of how kind of TV writing has been connected to advertising and industry over time is what everybody's thinking about. So the conventional kind of, the current convention is pushing against old conventions, if that makes sense. So right now, what's fresh in TV writing is actually very sort of withheld, full of subtext kind of dialogue. That's a word that she uses a lot. She uses the word withheld. The dialogue is not necessarily realistic. She says it feels natural and withheld, like it's not overly telling too much about itself. And there's also a term right now in contemporary streaming TV towards more poetic language again. So some examples of this are Deadwood and The Wire and Game of Thrones. Think of some other TV shows you can think of where it's particularly poetic in the way they use language. Okay. Oh, and jokes. TV has jokes. Even dramas have jokes. Really, this drama comedy, you know, it's not even, it has more to do with the length of a show now, and some of the history of the medium, and it does an actual difference between comedy and drama. She makes a joke about the term dramedy, which she hates, and she's like, the only thing that's good about the word dramedy is that the other option would have been coma, and that took me a long time to get that joke. Drama comedy is dramedy, or drama comedy is comma. Anyway, that's her joke. Okay, she says, okay, so humor is in the evolution of the medium of TV, and that different lineages have different senses of humor, different traditions, different styles and genres. So if you think about what they call a two-camera shoot, that's like a sitcom, where you had a laugh track and people sitting in a live studio audience, that has a certain particular lineage, whereas like sketch comedy shows like Saturday Night Live also have an audience that don't use a laugh track. Anyway, there's different kinds of conventions of humor that you're interacting with as you enter into writing. She says it's important to learn the history of the medium and try to understand some of the major players of their time. Great. And then industry. One thing she says about the industry is that TV is incredibly competitive to break into. That you really have to learn the format, learn how to write log lines and outlines, learn how to create treatments, and really get a lot of the basics before you can even really kind of get into the system, which there's a lot of barriers to entry. I really appreciate that. She says it's really important to learn how to write complex characters that evolve over time, and that right now most TV writers come from screenwriting MFA programs or BFA programs. So it's still pretty exclusive in terms of who is going into these jobs. Connections help. Nepotism is real, and wealth affects who gets the most fun jobs. TV is one of the super fun, super high-paying jobs that not everybody gets to have. So there's a lot of oppression and work to get to do that. She says it's not impossible to find a way in, but it's hard, and if you're really interested, you should dig in. Okay. So, how do you do that? How do you dig in? She encourages me to follow things like the Emmy Award nominees for writing. Who's getting nominated every year? What's their training? What topics do they take on? How is the writing of these nominated Emmy Award people fresh and of the moment? Look at them as sort of role models, both in terms of career and in terms of fun. Okay. I'm going to talk about a few myths about TV that she introduces in this book, and then I'm going to talk about 3 qualities of episodic TV. Then I'm going to talk about rules of series TV, and then we're going to talk about this episode breakdown. So that's how we're moving forward. So she busts the myths about TV really quick. She says, one myth is that TV is just small movies. No, it's not. TV is way more intimate than movies. It's more like radio. Also, she mentions that more people see TV than movies. Hundreds of millions of people who see TV shows versus millions of people who see cinema, which made me think about theater and made me feel that, like, really, if you get thousands of people to see your play, it's a good play. I've been directing plays for the past 20 years, and there's still probably only 5 that have broken the 1,000 people who see the plays that I've directed. So I appreciate the breadth. That's also, of course, one of the issues of TV, right? It has to have this broad common denominator thing. Back to myths. Another myth is that TV is easier to write than movies because it's shorter. She says she feels like it's actually the opposite, and I agree with her. That's why TV is actually the third element in this class. It requires all the same things, all the same sort of structural scaffolding that you have to build up for film, but it's in a much tighter format, so that's super efficient. Another myth is that TV is a wasteland. Apparently, the 1961 FCC commissioner at some point said that TV is a wasteland, and he was like referring to like all there was on there was the Ed Sullivan Show and I don't know, a bunch of old TV shows, Mr. Ed. And she's like, that has never been the case, and it's increasingly less the case. I don't think TV is a wasteland. It's things that someone says anymore these days. But another myth is that TV is all the same. I agree. I don't think that's true. In fact, I would argue now that I feel like TV almost has a fetish for difference. I would say it sort of sometimes does that thing that Bell Hooks talks about, where difference is kind of the other is chew up the other and kind of use it as fuel, but that's another lecture. She also says there's a myth about TV that is restrictive in content. I would say that is less so now than ever with streaming TV and Netflix and everything, but I will say the fact that it's less restrictive in whether or not you can show or say the F word does not mean that it is not still completely structured by commerce and capitalism and what will sell ads. That if it is more lenient with certain things, then it is not because we are growing more enlightened. Just trends. Okay, 3 qualities of episodic TV. She says one of the most notable qualities of episodic TV is that it's a collaborative writing process. That's why we're doing this writers. The second element that's so important, we talked about a little earlier, is this episodic characterization. So instead of one dramatic arc going up and over and done, it's episodic. There's an arc, there's another arc, characters sort of develop without a clear endpoint. And she describes it with the metaphor of characters get deeper, so they sort of develop along the sort of vertical axis rather than the horizontal axis. So I think that's interesting. Another quality of episodic TV is what she calls the long narrative. The long narrative is obviously just that it happens over a long time. There's these 3 different kinds of long narrative TV shows. One is anthologies, which are kind of rare. They're things like Twilight Zone or Black Mirror, that every show is its own thing, kind of unrelated to the one before, but connected by style. It's rare, but I kind of love those. They're more like short films. Another form is what she calls procedurals with closure. So procedurals are like all the CSI franchises where there are like lawsuits where there's like one case and then the case is over, the episode is over. So the great thing about procedurals with closure is that they can be shown in any order, which makes them very easy to put on reruns because you don't have to know what happened in the episode before. Those shows, the characters still develop, but it's not as much about them. I think there's a really interesting relationship with American crime and procedurals. I think that we have this experience of terrible things happen to us and we don't get closure, so sometimes we like TV show where there is closure. So anyway, I have a theory about sort of trauma and closure and procedurals, so that's another lecture. Then finally, the most common and what you guys are working on in this class kind of episodic TV is serial. So serials are shows where the drama continues over many episodes, the characters develop and change over time. So she talks a lot in this book about NYPD Blue, which is actually not a show that I really cared about or watched, but there's some sample episodes in here. And she talks about NYPD Blue, which ran for 12 seasons, with 250 hours of story. So if you think about a regular film running like 2 hours, just like it's exponentially more time that you get to spend with the characters and setting the problem. Cool. So those are the 3 qualities of episodic TV: collaborative writing, not one single arc, but multiple episodic expecting arcs, and the long narrative. And those are the 3 kinds of long narrative: anthologies, procedurals, and serials, which is what we're working on. So now the rules for serials. Rules for serials or series TV. Big picture rules, and of course all rules are meant to be broken. Most series, she actually says all, but I say most. College professors usually try not to say all about almost anything. Most series fit into franchises. So franchises are things like the police franchise, the legal franchise, the workplace franchise, the medical franchise, the sci-fi franchise, action adventure franchise, family franchise, sheep, these are a kind of show that is recognizable enough to be familiar. There's obviously like new things that come out, like I think Game of Thrones is sci-fi, so that's kind of what it is, or action adventure. But everything can kind of like nestle into one or another, right? There's things feel fresh, but they also feel familiar because we're used to like workplace comedy. So it might be a totally different kind of workplace, but like Champion. I don't remember a workplace gym, but there probably, maybe there was one before, but it feels very familiar because we're used to workplace franchises. So that's rule one, most fit the franchises. Two, deadlines are for real. If you are a person who has problems with deadlines, TV might be really, really hard for you. It goes super, super, super fast, and you have to just be cool with that. And I think probably like developing the fortitude of moving fast and not being perfectionist must be part of the work of becoming a TV writer. You have about 1 week to outline or call what's called break the story. You have 2 weeks to deliver a draft. You get some notes, and then you have another 1 week for revision. So very fast, and has to be very, very precise, and you have to have very little ego about changing your show. That's my phone. Sorry. Oh, that's my colleague Krista, the playwright for I'll call her back after class. Okay. So series fit and franchise, deadlines are real. A 1 hour show has to fit in 1 hour, and a half-hour show has to fit in a half an hour. That's actually changed a little bit more with Netflix, but still most of the time that's true. And then the big rule, which is what our lesson about today, is about the act structure. So a big rule of serial TV is that it has an act structure. For an hour-long drama, there is a teaser, then there are 4 acts, then there might be a little tag at the end, and then the show is over. For a comedy, there is a teaser, there are 3 acts, there might be a little tag, and then the show's over. The teaser comes before the credits. It's cute, it pulls you in, it introduces the themes. It may not be the main characters for that show. You've seen it. Some shows, like procedurals, often will show a little flash of the crime, and then the credits roll, and then the rest of the show is solving the crime. Sex ed, it feels like almost every teaser is someone having sex. There's like a flash to some couple having sex, and then there's the beginning of the show, and then it starts in the morning at his house, and then it goes through the day. For dramas, the acts are a little longer. They're about 10 to 15 minutes, and they end in a cliffhanger because commercials used to happen there, and you need people to come back from commercials. So it ended in a cliffhanger, so people are like, oh my god, what's going to happen? I don't know. I'm going to go get some popcorn or get a cup of coffee or come back, and I have to see what happens after the cliffhanger. The acts themselves often have an element of theatrical unity. So you remember back to the unity of ancient Greece, time, place, and theme. So often, like in sex ed, for example, Act 1 is at school, Act 2 is after school, or like that night. Act 3 is the next day. So if you're trying to figure out how to break the act, like when you're watching these shows, trying to break them down, look at how time is passing, and then look to the cliffhangers. That will let you know each act is ending. Within the act, there are scenes. Within the scenes, there are beats. Just a reminder of that language. This is from the book. It has a great glossary at the end. So a dramatic act is a dramatic unit made up of a number of scenes. That's her definition. An act is a dramatic unit made up of a number of scenes. A scene is, and this is same as theater, very important. A dramatic scene is a motivated protagonist who wants something and drives the action to get it through conflict with an opposing force, either an antagonist or an antagonistic situation. And then a dramatic beat, which is sort of smaller than a scene, is a step of the story. So it's not filler. The beat can't be she like flicked some lint off of her coat, unless she had spent the whole last scene trying to get lint off of her coat frantically, and then got here and realized, oh god, I have lint on my coat, I'm gonna do so embarrassed. Like if it's part of the story, it's a beat. If I'm just like doing that, it's not. And the truth is that there's no time in TV for basically anything that isn't advancing stories forward. So beats are like the smallest unit. There's not something smaller than beats. I mean, there's acting. There's not something that you do as a writer, smaller. Actors do that. Okay, so your job and your assignment is to learn how to weave these things together. As a writer, you need to figure out how to make your acts and beats move together to tell a story. So a great way to do this is to break down other people's stories and see how they constructed them. So we're like deconstructing so we can construct our own. So she gives a tool to do this, which she calls the grid. I'm gonna switch over to watch me go. I'm gonna shift over to share screen. and show you some examples of episode breakdowns, and then I'm going to end this video so that you can do it on your own. Okay, sharing screen now. Okay, so this is an episode breakdown of the first episode of Sex Ed, or the pilot. So this is a shared Google spreadsheet that you can access from Moodle. Down here are the different tabs. I have done one for Sex Ed pilot and for Sex Ed season 2 episode 4, and then I did the Champions pilot here. Your assignment is to go and create a new sheet. Do that, to add a sheet, and then name it, rename it, whatever episode it is that you're doing. So you could be doing Sex Ed, I don't know, season 2 episode 5. Oh, I guess we should put our names in there too. So put your initials. All right, so I'm gonna rename this JBF. Okay, so spoiler alert, if you haven't watched the first episode of Sex Ed, you should. But to outline this document, this is basically the Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, Act 4. Scenes down the side. There's usually about 7 scenes in an act. Sometimes more or less. Here it went up to 10. Here it seems to go to 9, although I think some of these interweave some. Here there was only 3. I made all these choices, right? You have to make your own choices about how you're dividing the act. I tried to do it at cliffhangers. And then down here, this is sort of the key. Maybe we should write that in here. This is the key. So the key, I decided these. Plot A is Otis struggles with his mom's profession. That seems like the most important sort of plot that they're introducing in Sex Ed. His mom is a sex educator. Plot B is about his mom, Jean. So Jean is his mom, her superpower. Oh, my summary of the plot is her superpower is also her Achilles heel. I sort of created that because I was watching her both do a great job of psychoanalyzing people and also like psychoanalyzing people a little too much and having them get mad at her like her son does in this episode. So I described that as the plot. This is almost a plot. C and D, these are sort of proto plots. They sort of develop over the show. But I wrote the plot, I described the plot as Eric's experience makes him vulnerable. And then Maeve's plot I described as Maeve's class makes her vulnerable, but she's pumping toxic, she is. And then plot E is Adam and Amy can't make it work. So I color coded them. You can color code as you wish. And then I broke down what scenes were happening in what order in this episode. It was very important to make the character be the focus of the attention. So I had to make a lot of choices there about whose scene it was based on sort of who seemed to be making the most choices in the scene. So go ahead and make those decisions yourself as you go. And again, I tried to end on cliffhangers. So Otis gets this threatening invitation from Adam, who's going to come over to his house. So that feels like where the commercial would have been if we still did things like commercials. Anyway, that is how I did this. I would love you to try. Enter yours down in here. We can discuss them more after you have tried. I did a slightly different thing for the Champions pilot. So because it's a half-hour show, it has fewer plots. So this is my Champions pilot breakdown. Again, it only has 3 acts, Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. It has a teaser for the first act, not for the second 2. And then about 7 scenes in each. There's often less. I actually, if I could have done this differently, I may have interwoven the scenes more, like A, B, A. That's like one scene where you're like flipping back and forth from this to them. That would be another way to write this. What I did for this is I did plot A was red, plot B was blue, and then those 2 combined became purple. So that's how I did this color coding. So you see the purple, there's more purple as it goes forward. And then I put plot C as this kind of external relationship with the Jonas. Okay, that's your homework. Go forth and do it. I'm gonna stop this now and hope that it works.